Welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. And these are just a few highlights, just to give you an idea of the quality of your speaker.
Oh no.
Pleasure to introduce this gem of a kinesiologist who represents 4 generations of kinesiology people, including her own children. Very successful business person, as well as a kinesioloco, a Touch for Health instructor, so definitely near and dear to my heart. But also, you perhaps don't know, she's also a Touch for Health instructor trainer. So she's approved to do Touch for Health instructor trainings and create more instructors, and we're hoping we'll have more instructors in Central America very soon. She's been part of the leadership in kinesiology in Canada and internationally, past president of CANAS, the Canadian Association, and she's the editor of a new online specialized kinesiology magazine, so look for that, and hopefully she'll be very inspiring to all of us in this next hour. Please give a warm welcome to Alexis Costello.
Thanks, Matt. I always worry when someone says they've got highlights. I'm like, oh no. What are they going to say? All right. So thank you guys for coming in. I'm hoping that this is going to be a really fun presentation. Because I don't have a mic, if you're ever having trouble hearing me in the back, just give me a wave. But I'm going to pretend that this is a room full of my kids and just talk to you like I talk to them, and you should all be able to hear me just fine. So, a few months ago, I had this experience of trying to explain the concept of a traveling encyclopedia salesman to my kids. The idea that a person would actually, as a career, drive into a neighborhood, knock on doors, go to door, trying to convince people to buy 22 volumes of what would be considered basic common knowledge in order to be a modern, educated individual. And as you can imagine, a couple of 15-year-olds have no clue what this could possibly be about, because if they want information about anything, it's like, hey Siri, or they Google it, right? So why do I bring this up? Well, because healthcare practitioners and doctors used to have the keys of information. And when people had symptoms or felt like things were wrong with their body, they would go to these experts in order to find out what was wrong and what to do about it, right? We went to school, we read the books, we studied the body, we learned from experience, and then the clients or the patients would come to us with their questions, and it worked this way for many, many years. But in an information age, when anyone can Google anything and has unlimited information for free at the touch of a button, almost instantaneously, how are we attracting clients and students and setting ourselves apart, both as individuals and as an industry, right? Because people are no longer coming to practitioners in order to figure out what supplements they should be taking. They can do that online. In fact, I don't know about you, I am constantly telling my clients to stop Googling their symptoms, as they inevitably feel like they're about to die horrifically from some exotic disease they just found online, right? So I really believe that people are coming to us now in order to experience your personal energy and your story. So now who you are, not just what you do, is really, really important. And that's why we need to investigate these concepts of personal branding and marketing a little more closely. So last year when I was here, I talked about this a little bit, and I also went through the GEMS flow protocol with the flow charts and the scan sheets, and how people could use it to take their Touch for Health sort of outside of the boxes and be able to use it really efficiently with their clients, and also to create a bridge between different modalities. This year I'm switching it up a little bit. We'll do a balance and stuff if we get time at the end today, but my focus today is to talk about these ideas about marketing and personal branding, because I'm really excited about the idea of us taking our industry as a whole up a notch and helping people find us. So let's build on some of those ideas from last year and see where they take us. And I apologize, I don't go off book like the guys do, because an hour and a half, I can get on a pretty wicked tangent if I have that much time, so I need to like keep myself reined in. So I'm keeping these here. All right, so today, what are we discussing? Why marketing is not distasteful for holistic practitioners, but a necessary part of our business world. How a personal brand is an easy and fun way to market your business with full integrity. Why it's important to understand your core values in business. Also a little bit about metaphors, though it doesn't show up in here, and how metaphors can be used to market your business. And then, if we get a chance, the GEMS protocol and how to use it to enhance your already amazing Touch for Health skills. And then we'll also take some time to answer questions and to have any discussion so that hopefully when you leave here today, you feel ready to just run with these ideas. Okay? So let's talk about marketing first. I feel almost like I need to justify why we're talking about marketing at a Touch for Health conference. Because it's not really our thing, is it? Right? So I would love for you to give me some words that you think of when you hear marketing. Just shout it out. What do you think of when you hear it?
Cheesy.
Cheesy, yes. Yeah? Sales. Okay.
Those phone calls, I say, take me off your list.
Oh, and we hate those people, don't we? Okay. Yeah, that doesn't sound very good. Like, when you hear those kind of lists, you understand why people maybe don't want to talk about it, or why it doesn't seem, come in, or why it doesn't seem to integrate well with some of the values that we have in place. And then, of course, there's that image, as Matthew kind of pointed out, of the slimy salesman that comes to mind for so many people when we think about marketing. So you might have an idea of television commercials or tacky billboards or an irritating jingle that you just can't get out of your head for days on end when we talk about marketing. But obviously, that is not the approach that we are going for as holistic practitioners, right? Marketing can simply mean putting quality content out into the world that is going to help people who are aligned with our energy and values find us. It's just that simple. Right? Marketing means making information readily available in an attractive way. So anytime you put information out into the world that explains who you are and what you do, and that might inspire other people to want to work with you, that's marketing. So yeah, that includes like ads in print journals and in the online world and on the radio and on TV and all of that. But it's more than that. Every post on Facebook, every time you write a blog, anytime you have an open house, anytime your client tells their friend about you and what you did when they were in your office, that's marketing. And those things are free. So are you leveraging them properly? Okay, so many of you have probably seen Specialized Kinesiology magazine. It's had a few issues out. In the first issue that I ran, I talked to Tanya O'Neill McGowan from O'Neill Kinesiology College in Australia as sort of my marketing expert for that issue, because I really liked some of the things I saw that she was doing on Facebook. And what she was saying is that we have to get past this idea that it's self-promotion. Because self-promotion sounds kind of icky, doesn't it? We don't want to be that guy from the beginning. And so if we can get past that idea that it's not about self-promotion, but it's about the fact that you know something that can actually really help people. And if you know something that can help people, how could you not share it, right? What we do is incredible. So telling people about it, I feel it should be like the evening news. Like everybody should know, everybody should be watching it. And if you talk about it like that, like this shining, amazing system that you have at your disposal that can help people, I don't think it comes off as cheesy salesmanship. I think it comes off as something that you love and that you can use to change the world. Because excitement is contagious, right? You know, if you ever watch somebody and they're doing their thing, whatever their thing is that they absolutely love to do, and they're in their zone and they're good at it, it's sexy, right? And you see it and you kind of want to know more about it, even if it's something outside of your general interest level because it's fun to see people who are really passionate about what they want to do. So in a world of apathy, where everyone is talking all the time about finding their passion and making an impact and all those things that sound good, I feel like we're in a position where we can actually live it and help other people to live it as well. So full disclosure, I feel obligated to throw this in here for anybody who wasn't here for my presentation last year. I have no real business training except for hands-on experience in running my own company, Happily Holistic. But I started thinking about business and marketing really young because I am a child of the 80s and my dad was in sales. And so I spent an awful lot of time listening to these guys, right? And I was the kid that went to sleep listening to cassette tapes of Brian Tracy and Napoleon Hill and Dale Carnegie and could basically recite their books verbatim at the age of like 7 and 8. I'm not kidding. I can see you laughing. And you know, a lot of that stuff sounds really cheesy to us now, right? But that being said, I think it primed me in a lot of ways for specialized kinesiology work. Because when you take those concepts and you boil them down, what do they say? They say set good goals, and reality follows intention. And that's kind of what we do, right? We work with the fact that energy and reality follow intention, and we teach people to set great big goals. And I really feel like, as a lot of you in the audience probably do, I power of intent the heck out of my life. I am always doing stuff I'm not supposed to be able to do, simply by making it really clear that that's where I want to go and working with kinesiology to go that way. And so I think we all need to focus a little bit on this idea of promoting our modalities and what we do. Because we pay lip service to the need for advertising in our field, but not a lot of us are really good at following through. So where I was really hit with this was when I took the instructor training workshop for Touch for Health for the first time. Now, when you take that workshop, there's a couple pages about marketing that are in that book, and it's designed so that you can teach the instructors how to market their classes. It helps you teach your students how to market their services so that they're able to bring people in and make this a career if they're interested in that. And I remember when I took that the first time, it didn't mention the word internet anywhere in this couple pages. And at the time, I thought that was very strange. But then fast forward 8 years from there, 2014, taking the same class for the second time as part of my instructor training program, the marketing section's the same. It still doesn't say internet. In 2014? That's crazy. That's crazy, right? And I don't want to put that system down because really what it does really emphasize are things like hands-on demos, right? And we all know, I mean, we're Touch for Health people. We know if we can get our hands on someone, they're ours for life, right? I mean, the people that you demo on, they are yours. They're believers. But to not acknowledge the impact that email and websites and social media have on our day-to-day life at this point in time is kind of nuts. And we've all seen really stupid things go viral, right? Like, how many just terrible videos have you seen? And they have 1 billion hits on them. And people are showing them to everybody they know, right? And they've got them on their phones, and it's like, you gotta see this, you gotta see this. Wouldn't it be great to see some kinesiology stuff start going viral? It's so much more worthy, right? So if we want to step back from that, if we understand that that might be our goal, to have content out there that people want to share and that starts getting passed around and around and around, how are we going to go about doing this? And I feel like part of the way we need to go about doing this is to look at personal branding. And personal branding, these are kind of buzzwords in the industry right now. And again, we might bridle a little bit at the idea that we are a brand. Because after all, we tend to associate brand with huge soulless corporations, right? And that's kind of the opposite of what most of us want to be. But as you can see from the definitions that are showing up here on this slide, I don't know if you guys can read them clearly in the back, yeah? This kind of branding, what it really boils down to is very simple. It has to do with how do people perceive you and the experience of working with you. So Jeff Bezos, who's the founder of Amazon, says that personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. Oh, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because that means you already have a personal brand.
I'm in trouble.
Uh-huh. Go ahead and step out and we'll find out. It means you already have a personal brand, and it may or may not be flattering. And it may or may not be what you would want your clients and students to think of when they're thinking about you, right? So if you're curious about what the perception of you and your work is, you can ask your friends. Ask people for 3 words that best describe you or describe the experience of having a session with you, and take a look at what words start coming up consistently. So I've done this. And when I was first looking at selling my business and I realized that I was going to have to actually go out and market myself and not hide behind the logo of my company anymore, that was really scary. And so I put this out on Facebook. I'm going to break the cardinal rule of presentations and just read the slide so that everybody hears it in the back. It says, so I'm reading all this material on marketing and self-branding before launching my new blog website. And apparently, one of the steps to this is understanding how people already perceive you. This is going to come off like I'm hunting for compliments, but I would really like help with this. Please post the 3 words you think best describe me. And then in order to give people some incentive to actually do this with me, I said I'm going to make a contest out of it. If you post, I'll put your name in a draw. Winner gets a free aromatherapy massage. Out of town friends and clients, I promise I'll send you something awesome if you win. Positive or negative, I don't care as long as it's honest. Anyone saying nice or patient will automatically be disqualified, as I will know we have never met. Ready and go. And this was on May 10th of 2015 that I did this. And the results were absolutely amazing. Nearly 60 people bothered to answer me, only one being my mom. And this was a couple years ago where I knew way less people than I know now, especially less kinesiology people. And when I looked at this list, I felt so humbled and grateful to have these people in my life, first of all. And I want to explain what you're seeing here. What I did was I took all of the answers that people gave me and I put them all in a Word document. And then every time I saw a word repeated, I made it bigger. So you can see from looking at it that some of these things, maybe I only heard once, but some of these things were said again and again and again and again, and you start getting themes emerging, right? So I'm not showing you this so that you can see that, you know, other people said something nice about me, but because this was really helpful for me and also really hard to ask for. Because we're kind of trained that you're not supposed to, first of all, say good things about yourself, and secondly, we're not supposed to accept good things about ourselves when other people say them, right? We're supposed to be like, oh, no, stop, no. And so this was kind of difficult, and we tend to be a little bit hard on ourselves, don't we? And sure, this kind of thing probably skews to the positive because it was on Facebook, so I could see who was posting it, right? If it was anonymous, maybe I would have gotten more negative responses. But after a couple days, I made good on my promise from before. I put all the names on scraps of paper, threw them all in a box. We did a draw and filmed it and put it on YouTube. And I also thanked everybody who had bothered to take a couple minutes out of their day in response to this. So what does this tell you about my personal brand? Well, it tells you that my personal brand, first of all, is to be a bit of a smartass. But you also see that it has things like intuition and love and care behind it, so hopefully that softens it a little bit. And then you see a little bit of my bigger, better, faster now kind of personality coming through with things like entrepreneurial and dedicated and driven. So if you do something like this, you might discover that your personal brand isn't quite what you would like it to be. But that's good, because it means that you have an opportunity still to change it, right? And this is something that you can reverse engineer. It's helpful to decide what you would like that to be, and then make sure that all your contact points with your students and your clients are all reflecting that idea. For instance, if you want to be seen as a leader who's extremely professional, and you find out that you have a reputation as a little bit of a goofball, maybe it's time to stop posting those yelling goat videos on Facebook. Whereas if you want to be seen as lighthearted and cute and an aficionado of Disney musicals, this is an entirely appropriate thing to have on your Facebook page. And you should probably talk to my kids. So when we're genuine with our branding, we empower people, our students and our clients, to decide yes, that they want to be involved with what we're doing, or no, that's not the thing that I'm looking for at this time. And so we weed out the people that we don't actually really want to be working with right now anyway, or where we might not be the best fit for them, either as an instructor or as a practitioner. And this is where authenticity really comes into play, because it will work better for you if you're genuine with this. You know, you do not want to be basically lying or putting up a false face every time you're working with this, because people can tell, right? What you want is to find the best parts of yourself and then leverage that in your business and in your interactions with your students and clients. So then we can talk a little bit about core values in business. If I could just see, who was here for my presentation last year? Okay, only a couple of you, so that's good. I have to apologize to those of you who were here, because we're going to do the same kind of exercise that we did last year. And I'm sorry that you're going to have to bear with it one more time, but I feel like it's important for the new people to have a chance to look at that. So maybe your answers have changed too, so it can be interesting to work with. So maybe you already know exactly what you want your business to look like and feel like and stand for, but in case you don't, we can do this little exercise in establishing key values. Because while most of us would probably agree on certain key values for our business, like honesty or integrity or helping people, they're all going to have sort of a different value scale for each one of us, right? There's differences in how much importance each person puts on each value and how much that defines who you are. So there was a handout in the stuff that you would have gotten when you first came into the conference. It has on one side of it something about the magazine, and then on the other set a list of characteristics. If you happen to have that with you, then wonderful, use the one that's in your bag, and if not, I'm going to pass some of these around. So if you don't have that, take one of these and pass them on. There should be enough for everybody, okay? So when you get a chance to take a look at this list, these are just a few ideas of some core values that are from a certain website. Most people are going to have 8 to 10 that seem really integral to who you are and how you want to be seen in business. I'm going to give you a minute and just circle the ones that seem really important to you, okay? Does everybody have a list? Okay. It's kind of difficult to pick out a few, right? After, when you look at it, because we want to be all those things. Okay, so as hard as that was, now look at your list and cut that down to 5. I'm going to give you another minute. Is everyone down to 5 or less? Okay. Are you ready for the axe to fall here? I can see that some of you are already anticipating what's happening here. Imagine that you can only pick one. And this is the thing that is going to define you in business and in your interactions with the people around you. Take that one, underline it, star it, write it on your forehead, whatever you want to do. Let me know when you've got your one. Has everyone got their one? How many couldn't resist a second one? There's always a couple that have a second one on there too. That's okay. 2 is still doable. We can work with that. Okay. Turn to your neighbor and tell them what you've come up with. You will know that you have the right kind of word if it feels a little bit scary and a little bit vulnerable to say it out loud to somebody, but also feels really good. That's kind of what we're looking for right there. So tell somebody else what you've got. Okay. And then, before I lose everybody completely here, we're going to take 2 minutes, and I want you to stretch and move around the room and try to introduce yourself, if you can, to 5 new people. Wow, it's worse than a group of kids. Whew. I'm going to have to put the music back on. Introduce yourself to 5 new people if you can, using your name and also using your core value. So what that's going to look like is something like, hi, I'm Betty and I'm compassionate. And I'm going to say, hi, compassionate Betty, nice to meet you. I'm Alexis and I'm fun and efficient. So we're going to take 2 minutes, a literal 2 minutes, not a touch for health break 2 minutes, and then we're going to come back here, okay?
But you really do have it in yourself.
Yes.
So you see what I did mine by muscle testing. You see what mine came out.
Of course it did.
Of course it did.
Of course it did.
Yeah. You picked your one thing.
All right. Can I get everybody back down? If anyone can whistle really loud, you can just call everyone back to order. Thank you. All right. How did that feel?
Very awkward.
Really awkward?
It has effectiveness.
Yeah. Can I ask, why did it feel awkward?
Well, my biggest one, the one I chose, was called Being the Best. But I also struggle with, feelings of lack of confidence,
Right.
and inadequacy. So to introduce myself as being the best is very outside of my comfort zone.
Right.
Very much.
Thank you for playing along anyway. It's not easy, right? It's not easy to say these things and to say that this is what we value. It feels vulnerable and difficult. And as I said, a lot of us, we've been trained that you're not supposed to say those things, right? So it is an interesting activity. And it's great if you can stay with it even when it feels kind of awkward. Was anyone surprised with what they ended up with? Who said yes? Yeah? Okay.
Ended up with compassion, and as my lovely wife said, your mercy meter is at 0. So,
Maybe we need to learn.
All right.
and that might be, and that's part of it. So,
Okay.
I'll take it.
You were surprised?
Not so, I'm surprised that I met 5 people who have the same thing.
Oh.
Making a difference.
And that's a big one, because that's why a lot of us are here, right? And that's one of the reasons, that right there is one of the main reasons why I talk about this the way I do, because if people can't find us, we can't have the impact that we are wanting. Charles?
And I spoke with a couple trying to decide which one. So she said, oh, I just muscle tested.
Just muscle this for it.
Go like this, bang, make a difference. She comes over and goes, I'd like to introduce you. I'd like to make a difference. I'm like,
Very nice. That's wonderful. And it's kind of fun that there's a bit of a theme in the room, too. So this is it. This is the beginning of your branding, because if everything you put out to the public goes back to this core idea, then number one, you're always going to feel really good about everything that you say. Number two, you're going to be genuine and authentic, so you're never going to look like that greasy car salesman from the beginning, right? Because people will sense that you're coming from your heart when you're talking. And number three, it gives you a filter to look at your marketing materials with. And what I mean by that is that somebody who has a core value of perfection or being the best is going to have a really different set of marketing materials than somebody whose core value is compassion or empathy, right? The art that you would choose, the wording that you would choose, the people who will be drawn to it, it's really different for those two different things. And they're both good. And they're both going to bring in certain people and allow you to speak right to the heart of different people, right? And you don't want to toss out the other words from your list, because together these are telling a story about you and who you want to be in business. So there's a place for each of these values when you're working with your business. Just remember that one of them is a little more dear to your heart than the others. So remember that that's the center, right? And if you don't feel like you got exactly the right words, I would suggest the website threadsculture.com, which is where I got this list from. They have a list of 500 of these values arranged either by category or alphabetically that you can download and play with. So if you like this idea and you don't feel like you've quite hit the nail on the head yet, I would suggest going and working with that.
What was that website again?
Threads. Threads, like the thread in my address, culture.com. Okay, so on a slightly different but related note then, how many here have taken Matthew's Touch for Health 5 Elements Metaphors class? All right, how many of you use metaphors all the time in your specialized kinesiology work? Okay, so then you get it. You understand how powerful metaphors can be. Metaphors resonate with us deeply. And one of the ways that we can convey our values to the world is through metaphors. So I'm going to show you a slide that has a few common metaphors for our industry, and see if any of them speak to you and how you would like to portray your business. These are a few examples of what Jeremy Miller, who wrote a book called Sticky Branding, calls deep metaphors. And deep metaphors are similar to archetypes, and that they are metaphors that are universal and that we connect to deeply. These are only a few examples, but ones that I felt were especially relevant to Touch for Health people. So you can see what I've got here is connection, resource, balance, and transformation. So let's play with the metaphor of balance for a moment. This is a deep metaphor. It's universal. If you close your eyes and you think for a moment about the word balance, you will have specific images and ideas that come to your mind with that word, right? Now in this slide, I've shown this picture of the rocks stacked up in the water, but a lot of people might think of something more like this, an example of perfect physical balance, right? As Touch for Health people, we might think of something more like this. This is what balance looks like in my head when I hear the word. A busy parent might think of weighing work with family responsibilities and trying to balance their time. The point is that these words are universal, and by incorporating them into your branding, it can help you to connect more deeply with the people that you're trying to reach. So here's an activity that is suggested in the book Sticky Branding, or if you go to the website, it's stickybranding.com. And you can try it the same way that I tried the personal branding experiment that I mentioned earlier and see where it takes you. This is what he suggests about working with metaphors and deep metaphors for your business. And I thought, for Touch for Health people, the idea of metaphors in business is probably a little more appealing than the words marketing strategy are. So here's something that you can do if you're curious about playing with this in your work. So first, to discover your brand's metaphor, It says to recruit 5 to 25 customers to participate in the project. And often this is where people get stuck because we feel like, oh, people don't have time to do this. I don't want to ask somebody for something, right? Ask anyway. You might be surprised at how willing people are to participate in something like this for you, especially your clients who know how much you've helped them and how much you've made a difference for them. The second one, the task. So you ask each of the participants to tell a short story about your company, product, or service. This story could be about how they first found you and how they felt about that experience. It could be about how they use your products and services, or the impact that your sessions have had on their day-to-day life. Let them pick, because the point is that it needs to be something meaningful to them, right? And what's meaningful is going to change from person to person. The catch is they can't just come up and tell their story. That would be too easy now, wouldn't it? The catch is that they need to tell it with pictures. So what you're going to do is ask them to view this as a slideshow and have like 5 to 20 pictures that cannot include pictures of your product or services. You can't cheat and just have a picture of someone muscle testing or a picture of a bottle of vitamins. They need to be pictures that elicit a response, right? And they can print them or they can arrange them in a PowerPoint slide or whatever would be comfortable for them. But the pictures are key because this is going to make people be more evocative. It's going to bring up the images and make them more descriptive about this experience. And then the last step is to interview each of the participants and have them deliver their story. And you want to give them time to do this, like at least 15 to 20 minutes, and ask them to be as thorough as possible and go through these photos with you. Well, this seems like a lot of work. Why would we do this, right? Why go through all this trouble? Well, you've probably seen this quote before. It's a pretty famous one. People will forget what you said. They will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's the power of working with these metaphors, because when we do that, we're engaging with the feelings rather than just the thoughts. It lets us go through to the subconscious rather than what's on the surface. Now, hopefully, you've gathered by now that I would never ask you to do something that I haven't actually done myself. So I didn't have time between when I found this exercise about metaphors and when I had this presentation coming up to actually go through and do the whole activity properly. So I did kind of a quickie version, let's say. And once again, I reached out to my community on Facebook, and I put out there, this is just last week, working on my presentation for the Touch for Health conference about marketing. I'm discussing the power of metaphors to describe your personal brand. Want to play along? Post a picture that describes the experience of having a session with me. I'll add the ones I like best to my PowerPoint. So again, nobody has to do this, but people are actually pretty willing to play with you if you will put things like this out there. And so I got some really interesting images. I really like this one. Or this. And to me, these are images of discovery and transformation and the ability to see yourself clearly and feel free, right? To release something or to bring in something. And then, of course, I also got this one here in reference to the fact that everyone cries on my table. I have good friends. So now I understand that I've probably already lost some people in the room by advocating social media so strongly. A lot of us in this field are kind of Luddites by nature. And I totally and completely understand not wanting to contribute to the general dumbing down of the world by putting a lot of content online. But one thing we need to understand is that the internet has kind of leveled the playing field for advertisers a little bit. We no longer need the budget of big pharma to get out the word and to have real impact on people. You can answer questions immediately and give people the information they need to make good choices now, which is really powerful, right? It helps you to find clients, and it also will help you to connect with your peers. So in the spring issue of the magazine, not the one I just put out, but the one before it, with the cover like this, I got to talk to Helena from the UK, and she runs a group on Facebook which is called like UK Touch for Health, right? It has like 800 members in it, and it's probably the most active of all of the kinesiology kind of style groups that are out there. People are asking questions and connecting and sharing their stuff. They're sharing their wins. Like, I just had my first level 2 class, right up to, I don't know how to teach reactives in level 3. You know, there's all of these different things that are going up all the time. No matter what you think of Facebook as a concept, how cool is it that people can post a question and be answered by practitioners all over the world in the same day? But there's definitely a glut of information online, as I was saying before, and that's why the conversation that we're having now is more important than ever. Because in a world that's becoming increasingly noisy, it's important to be clear in your message. So an understanding of the things I was mentioning earlier, what your personal branding is, why you need to be marketing at all, what your core values in business are, these all mean that your website, your articles, your social media, and your one-on-one, face-to-face interactions with people are all going to sing the same message, so that your clients and students know exactly who you are and what you stand for. Because at the end of the day, that's going to let you help more people. It's going to let it get out there more and more. And that's really what it's about, right? So in the spirit of collaboration over competition, I've put together the GEMS website with information that can be useful for anyone wanting to be a better practitioner, with the idea that we're all in this together. GEMS itself allows for integration of lots of different modalities, and so I feel like it's a good way of bringing practitioners together and establishing some common ground. So if you have a topic that you think would be useful to discuss on the website, or something that you would like to contribute, I would love to hear it, because I would like to see the space become more and more truly collaborative as time goes on. Ideally, these are articles about things like marketing, like social media, like how to deal with a difficult client, or how to corral a rowdy classroom, or how to set up a good demo day, or something like that, that is universal to practitioners rather than being focused on any specific modality. For instance, this here is a screenshot of a post that was submitted by Ann Jensen about the actual methodology that she used for her muscle testing studies. And you're going to hear all about that tonight when she gets a chance to speak. But this is something that would be beneficial for anyone in our field, no matter what modalities you work with, right? There's a lot of posts on here with information about general topics that I hope are helpful for practitioners. Like this one about how to give presentations that don't sound like you're trying to sell people things. So why help other practitioners and instructors? Well, the more presence we have as a group, the better. It is crazy that there are people out there still who have no idea what specialized kinesiology is, or have never heard of Touch for Health. So that's why I spend a lot of time putting things together for other professionals to use and spread around. I want these things to become ubiquitous enough that no matter where I go, I no longer run into people who don't know what kinesiology is. And when I post something like this on Facebook, and then I find that people who I've never met before are sharing it in totally different countries, it's kind of wonderful. It's wonderful to know that we have this way of communicating with other people and helping to bring more people into our fold, right? I put this one together just last week. And like 2 minutes after I posted it online, I got a message from somebody who was part of the homeschooling community that I used to work with in Kelowna. And she responded to it with the question, "What is muscle testing, Alexis?" I was like, you know me. Like, this is literally all I ever talk about. How on earth do you not know what this is? And it was really quite shocking for me to realize that there were people in my circle, in my like direct sphere of influence, who don't know what this is. And I thought, what hope do people have who don't have somebody who they know, like actually just shouting about it all the time, right? So I understand that Touch for Health was originally designed to be used by lay people on family and friends and not as a career. But as more and more people are using it as a stepping stone into other specialized kinesiology classes, or as their focus in working on clients, or as a way of teaching and bringing it out to more and more people, we want to be able to get this information out to as many people as possible. And that's really the goal that we have here. So, before I take time to do any kind of a balance or anything like that, I just want to see if there's any questions about this stuff so that you don't forget by the time I get back around to it. No? Okay.
Comment.
Yes.
I really like those.
Thank you.
Wow. So, as a person who is on Facebook, what's the best impact I have to make it go viral, or to impact what your message is and how to get it out to the world? What can I do to promote that?
I just love seeing people share it, first of all, and not just sharing it on their page, but also, it's great that you click share, but often I will send it specifically to certain people. Like if I put something together and I know that you're gonna love this, I might tag you in it. Going, oh, okay, I'm just gonna tag 5 of my instructors that I know, right? So that they can pass this on. So that, if you were taking a social media break and not on there that week, you might miss it otherwise, right? So that's one thing that you can do. And just putting it out there more and more to other people, right? And again, it's fun for me to whip these things up and watch people share them, but I would really like to see more and more people doing it, right? And then the way that we spread that is also by sharing each other's things. So if you are talking about Facebook, on the GEMS Facebook page, I share everybody's stuff. Like if you're teaching a class, I'm going to put that class on there, even though it might not have anything to do with me, right? So that if somebody looks and they go, oh, well, that's a class that's happening in Ontario, then they can find it. So I think when we get rid of the idea that this is my territory and these are my students and this is my, and you're not going to come anywhere near it, and we start going, there's so many people, and they're all broken. So really, the more that we can get it out there, the better. I think it changes the vibe, right? And just get it, I'll share all of it, all the time. What we were saying earlier, more instructors of everything, right? Any other questions or comments or concerns about any of these sorts of things? Yes?
How do you make that graphic?
I'm using the same program for these that Darcy was talking about this morning. This is on Canva. Canva as in canvas without an s.com. They have a bunch of templates. So you just say, I want to make a social media post. Click, and it comes up the right size. And then you pick the template you like. And so when I have a little thought of something, like this thought came up, I was writing a little blurb about kinesiology for actually a radio program in the UK that was interviewing me. And this kind of came out of the conversation, and I was like, that's cute. I bet Touch for Health people would like that. And so just, jot it down, right? And yeah, it takes me literally 5 minutes to make these up if I already have a thought in my head of what I'm wanting to say. And they have templates on there and photos on there that cost you a little bit of money, so you can spend $10 and have a little credit, and then if you want to use one of the fancy pictures, you can just use it. But there's so many resources like this that are free, right? That are really easy. Pictochart is another one I use for infographic kind of things, where I've done larger infographics on like how to get into specialized kinesiology and taking people on a little journey of how they might start with Touch for Health and how they would then go to these other courses that all kind of link down from here. And because unfortunately the internet's become, I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, people have no attention span, and it's become so visual that a text-heavy website, people aren't really looking for that anymore. They're just needing, you need to rope them in really quickly with something that looks pretty. And then after that, when they're interested, now you can give them all the information, but the soundbite version is really helpful. Did I see a hand over here
Yeah,
in the
my
corner?
hand came up.
Yes.
This is for you, Alexis, or Matthew. You want to be creative? Touch for Health game. You have cards, balance this, da da da. That would be so cool. I have not seen that. Okay.
So I have a friend that's actually working on one right now.
Is that what it is I got from you?
It might be, because I bought a game recently called Organ Attack. If anyone's ever seen the Heart and Brain comics. And basically you deal out all the organs, and then there's attack cards, and you work to remove the organs from the other people. Like you can play diabetes or on someone's pancreas, or you can play like a urinary infection on someone's bladder, and if they get a couple ailments, then you get to remove the organ. And my 4-year-old is obsessed with this game right now, and so at my house, we were sitting there and we were like, there should be a Touch for Health version with this, except that you do things to balance meridians instead of removing
Yeah,
organs.
because you don't diagnose,
No,
prescribe, or
no, it was all about cards that would actually balance meridians. So who knows? A year from now, I might have a board game for you to play at the conference. We'll see. Okay, any other questions on any of this? If we don't have any questions on this, I would love to take a few minutes and show you sort of how the GEMS protocol works. Not necessarily because I think everybody needs to be taking GEMS classes or working with it as a modality, though of course I would love that, but more because the idea behind it is to be able to, as I say, unpack the boxes, right? A lot of your health courses are delivered to you in boxes, because it's easy to teach this to you. So here's a protocol, and this is what we do in this protocol, right? Start to end. And then here's another protocol, and this is what we do in this protocol. But sometimes people don't present things that fall into easy protocols when they actually walk in. And so it's about being confident that you're pulling the right tool out of your toolkit when somebody comes in and is actually on your table or is actually standing in front of you, when they're not saying something like, I could really use a color balance today, I'm feeling a little bit under-facilitated around the color blue, and instead they're saying something more like, my right knee hurts, which is much more likely, right? So, GEMS is designed to kind of work with that and to give you an easy way of moving through all of your tools so that you can be as effective as possible. And I'm just going to go through this really quickly. GEMS stands for Goal Element Mode Stack. Really, the heart of the GEMS flow class is the flowchart. So the GEMS class itself is broken into 2 parts. It's basically 2 one-day workshops, not a 2-day workshop. Day 1 is GEMS Flow, which is working with this flowchart and with the scan sheets that go along with it, which are entirely based on Touch for Health. There's a few little things thrown in around it, and a few things that make it into a bridging class between Touch for Health and other kinesiology courses. But the techniques that are involved in the scan sheets all come out of the world of Touch for Health, because the techniques are so good. You don't need to really change them. It's just about moving around the way we use them a little bit to make them a little more practical when people are working in session. And so this is the flowchart, and I know you probably can't see it really well. But the idea is that when we're in a session, you establish your goal, you find the element that is involved. We do basic finger moding in order to figure out what floor are we going into, what rooms are we looking at to find the stresses. And then if you have more information, you can stack that in. If not, you just keep putting in stressors until you stop having things give you an indicator change, and then you find a correction in the same way. So what this actually looks like is that there's these scan sheets that are part of the class. I can see that these are kind of blurry, so I'm just going to explain it a little bit, because in the back you probably can't see it well at all. Imagine when you're looking at the flow chart that fire, the element of fire, has given you your indicator change. You're going to stack that in, and then you go looking for what mode are you working with. If you're working with fire structure, then that tells you that you have a stress under the fire structure column. And then all you're going to do is go looking through organ, muscle, posture, reactivity, tissue, and this is just showing the organs that are associated with the fire element, the muscles that are associated with the fire element, the tissues that are associated, right? And again, this is all stuff that's pulled out of the Touch for Health world. There's not a lot of extra in here, and it cross-references with the Touch for Health Complete Edition so that it's really easy if you're working with this and you have, you know, piriformis or gastrocnemius or something come up as a muscle and you're thinking, I can't remember how to test that right now. You can just take a look at the page, find it in your book, super easy, work with it from there, okay? And then after you've got all of the stresses on the particular goal stacked in, you can ask the body if you can correct. And the corrections are kind of put together the same way. If you have a fire emotional correction that comes up, and it might not be in the element of fire, you might have a water or a metal or whatever. Often in the balance, we're all over the elements and all over where the stresses are, right from the really structural to the really more esoteric electrical. And that's one of the powerful things about kinesiology is we get to play on all those levels all the time, right? If a fire emotional correction comes up, it might be the neurovascular holding points, or it might be ESR, or it might be a metaphor, or you might need to do a sound or a color balance or something of that sort. And so it just lets you find really easily where your stresses and corrections are. And it's just a different way of looking at what you're already doing. So for some people, this is going to resonate, and they're going to love the idea of taking the things they're already doing and kind of moving them around a little bit. And for other people, this will feel kind of weird, and they won't want anything to do with it, and that's okay too. But what I really love about it is if you're working with a lot of different modalities, it can be really a lovely way of incorporating all of your modalities. Because what I've found is that often in North America, it's a little different in Europe. In Europe, they're a little more Touch for Health purist, I've found. But in North America, it seems like a lot of people take Touch for Health because it's the prereq, and then they kind of stop using it so much once they have other things that they do. And yet, I can't tell you how many times I've been working with somebody and I've been in the middle of a huge, complicated session, and I've got SIPs and NOT and all these things out, and you know, I've got all this stuff stacked in, and what the body wants as a correction is something like holding ESR, or just rubbing a couple neurolymphatic points, or something so like day one, Touch for Health 1 kind of stuff, right? They work. And so it's a shame that people put those corrections away sometimes once they have other things. So part of it is to help make those other courses easier for you, because you know, we don't teach things like moding and stacking and stuff in Touch for Health, and yet it's kind of already expected that you know how to do that when you go into other courses, right? So as an instructor of something like SIPs, if the people coming into class don't understand finger moding or stacking, it's difficult to then take an entire morning to teach it, because I've got enough material in that class. I don't want to be taking that time to teach those things. And yet you don't want to leave them stranded and not feel confident to move on with the material that you're giving them now. So it is a bridge in that way, but also it can help to bring those things from your Touch for Health classes onto the same level as your other modalities. Yes?
I got a word for you for that, like finding your diamonds in the rough.
Yes.
And the rough would be all these complicated things, and then the diamonds are the base, the foundations.
Right. Sure, it's just finding what is, and the diamonds change. That's the thing that's so interesting with kinesiology, right? Right. I mean, what's a diamond for one person is just excess for another, right? You need to find what's right for that person at that moment. And that's why muscle testing is so shiny. It's because it allows us to do that. So I'm just going to see. I don't know if I have time. I have a couple minutes.
Yeah, this is going to happen in 30 seconds.
Ah, okay.
You got 10 minutes before the 10 minutes.
I have 10 minutes before 10 minutes. So that's 20 minutes. My math isn't great, but I'm pretty sure 10 minutes before the 10 minutes is 20 minutes. So, okay. And maybe if I could get somebody to put something in front of the projector. I don't want to turn it off because I'm going to need it again for a minute before we're done today. But if we could just stand something in front of it. Brilliant. Thanks, Wayne. Yes.
That often I'll get the balance and be long, complicated balance, and then it gets okay. I go through my usual, I have like a coding list of things I check, and it's none of those. So it's now I ask if something I know or something they know. Sometimes it's something they know that I would never think of checking for them. Right. And other times it's one that I know, and I go, okay, now I hate that because then what is it that I can't think of? Because somehow your subconscious knows all the techniques that you know, and that's still amazing. I'll leave it later, and then you find it was neurovascular.
Yeah.
It's some accurate coding technique or something like unbelievable. Because at that point, you have all the data they need. It's all about information.
Yes.
They have all the information. Just need the right trigger to release it, and then magic happens. You kind of go, huh? Like you said, okay, up there. I mean, all this stuff. You kind of go, huh? So it really is that way.
Absolutely. Would anybody like to come and have a quick balance? Larry?
Oh, I was going to say, if somebody asks a question, can you repeat it so it gets on the video?
Sorry, yes. Yeah, that wasn't so much a question as it was a confirmation. And I'm going to grab a chair so that I have something to put my book on. Oh, thank you. How chivalrous. If you could just pop it over here for me, just so that I'm not dropping this giant binder on her. Come on up.
She's on.
Yes, please. I don't know if we'll need them, but
Base.
yeah. What would John say? Head here, feet here, rest of you in the middle. All right. And if it's all right, I am going to leave this on you while I'm working with it, just to make sure that I stick to my own flow chart and don't go wandering off into other territories. Okay? So I do have my copy of my flow chart here, and I'm following through. And I'm just going to start. If you relax, I can use a brachioradialis, and it'll be a little bit easier on you. So I'm starting just by checking that I have a muscle that will talk to me, and I can do any quick little pre-checks that I want to do in order to make sure that everything is okay. All right, working from an indicator muscle is another thing that we teach in this class that isn't always emphasized in A Touch for Health 1 to 4, but is a really useful skill to have later on when you're working with things. So we usually start by establishing a goal. That's what the G in GEM stands for. Was there something in particular that you wanted to work on?
Yes, be joy in my presentation and in my business. Be joy in my business.
Be joy in your business. Okay, so let's just see what we have here. I'm going to take that out. I kind of automatically put my cell phone into circuit.
Be willing to bring that into the world.
Okay, so your goal then, if we were going to put that in that present positive, it would be, I am joy in my business and I bring it into the world?
Yes.
Can you say it?
I am joy in my business and I bring it into the world.
Okay. We have an unlocking indicator muscle that's giving me an idea that there might be some stress on that idea. And we've put it into circuit. And so now I'm just going to go looking through to see what element is related to that right now, as in where is there some stress in that. So I check central governing, fire, earth, metal, water, water. Okay, so I get an indicator change with water, and then I do some really simple moding, structure, chemistry, emotional, electrical. Okay, so then I'm going to go into my scan sheets and find the stress for water electrical. So for demonstration purposes, can you take circuit for me for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
That way if somebody asks me a question, I'm not like, while everyone's filming. Okay, so under water electrical stress, I have meridian, I have law of 5 elements, I have wheel energies. Okay, and so then on the flowchart, I call it the deeper button, which means, do we need to go deeper on this right now? Do we need more information about this particular thing in order to make this work? Okay? So if I check the deeper button, I get an indicator change, right? So what might wheel energies have to do with what we're talking about? There might be a time of day kind of issue that's happening with that. Or it might be about, I would tend to think it's more about daily cycles, right? Because when we're talking about wheel energies, it can be about what are you doing every day? What are your daily habits? Does that kind of make sense in the context of your goal?
Yeah, I need to make a daily habit out of running a business.
Okay. And
instead of just, I compartmentalize. Like if I'm working with clients, I'm purely working with clients, and then I don't have anything left over to run a business.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And in metaphors style, I've just put on the stress of her just saying that, right? And that in itself is enough that I'm no longer getting an indicator change on the deeper button. It's like she's brought that up, we've locked that in, so now that's part of the stress that we're dealing with right now. Okay? So then I can ask more, and more just tells me that there's another stress that we're going to want to lock in here. So I just go back up to the top of the flowchart. Now I'm again looking, because it might not be something else within water, it might be in a different element that we need to incorporate. So central governing, fire, earth, metal, structure, chemistry, emotional. So now we've got a metal emotional stress coming up. And if you would take circuit for me for a moment. Cool. And so all of these things that I'm going through are in the scan sheets. So if you ever decide to take a GEMS workshop, they're there. But even just the information I'm giving you, you could kind of flip through the Touch for Health book and make something like this, right? So metal emotion. Are you comfortable with me saying what the emotion is in front of the group? Okay, so the emotion that came up is concealing the face. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, that's going to be terrible on the video. Does that make sense to you in the context of your goal?
Yes.
Okay. So then I don't get an indicator change on deeper. It already makes sense to her. I don't need to try and figure out why that's part of it. I can then ask, do we need more? And that's all that we're putting on for a stress right now, are those two things. So now I can ask the body if I have permissions to correct. Now it probably helps that I basically set this up as I wanted to do like a 10-minute demo. So there might be more with this later, but for now, this is what we're doing. So to find the correction, we start the same way. We just go back up to the top and we start scrolling through the elements. And it comes up with a correction under metal. And then we're going to go structure, chemistry, emotional, electrical. Okay, so a metal electrical correction. And it comes up under figure eights. Okay? Mm-hmm. You're smiling like that. Is that a typical thing for you, is to do figure eight? Okay. All right. So we're doing figure eights, not all fancy like the ones we had earlier today, but Touch for Health style. So I can just ask, are we doing them here? Are we doing them here? Okay. And so we're going to just check what direction we want these to run. Okay, so I'm getting an indicator change here. So that means my figure eights are going to go this way. So let's just check. I can check, do we need more of the correction? So then more of the same, more 8s, but not more 8s here. We just need to check a different area, okay? Back of the body. Okay. So we're gonna do some over your head, okay? So just hold that. Okay, so we have it unlocked that way. So, here we go. Permission to close circuit. Okay, so I'm going to have you state your goal again here. Now, if I had been paying attention, I would have written it down. It was, I am joy in my...
I am joy in my business, and I bring joy to the world. Something like that.
That feels pretty good. How do you feel about that statement compared to 10 minutes ago?
It feels much easier.
Good.
And I don't know what that energy of concealing my face has been, but it's been a big one. And you see the rosacea, so the face, I've been working on face for a long time. So.
Can you guys hear her back there? Excellent. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me do something so quick with you, and that's really great. So, any quick questions? We have 2 minutes for questions about how the balance works. It's so simple, right? It's nothing crazy, earth-shattering. It's just a way of putting things together that for some of us who are a little more gestalty, maybe makes a little more sense than working with one balance and then another balance and then another balance. I love having the freedom to move in such an easy way through things. Okay? So thank you so much. So then, thank you, Wayne. Okay, let me just go flipping through this. So a little bit of my contact stuff if you want to get a hold of me or you want to find any of those cute pictures and things that I tend to put up. And then before we end things today, I know you've heard me say this before. I've said it a couple times in this presentation. I said it last year. I say it online all the time. I really do believe that we are all in this together. So every moment that you invest in putting good content out into the world and in honing your skills so that you're able to work more effectively on other people and in sharing each other's stuff, all of it, we work to make our field brighter, so that people who don't know about us can find us. So has anyone ever heard of Adam Grant? He's a writer. He wrote a book called Originals, and he wrote another book called Give and Take. I think Give and Take is a fabulous book for anybody in our field. One of the things he talks about in that is the 2-minute favor, which is that, like, if you could do a favor for somebody and it will take you less than 2 minutes, do it, right? And so in the spirit of that kind of thing, if there's anything I can do to help you with pushing your own stuff forward with this, whether that's by sharing your event or answering a question or anything of that sort, then get in touch, right? If you want to take GEMS and SIPS classes and instructor training workshops, I'm all over that. But if there's a little quick thing that is going to make your life easier as a practitioner, absolutely do let me know. And now to end things in as fun a way as possible and to get everybody up and moving after listening to me talk for too long, I present you with what would it look like if I was stuck in a video game. And this is a Minecraft muscle dance. This was created by my 15-year-old son. And as I firmly believe that in order to survive, we need to make our field more accessible and fun for younger people, I have submitted to being pixelated. So everybody up. this is Alexis, and this is so supraspinatus, central meridian, arms a little bit in front of and out to the sides from the body, moving in towards the midline. Teres major, governing meridian. Back of the hands in the small of the back, elbows out, and moving the elbows forward and backward, like a chicken, or a butterfly, or wings of any sort. Pectoralis major clavicular, arms straight out, shoulder height, thumbs are down, this is the stomach meridian, and moving the arms out to the sides and down. Latissimus dorsi, spleen meridian. Back of the hands are against the leg, arms straight, and moving it straight out from the body, like a penguin. Minecraft characters have a limited range of motion. Arms are out at a 90-degree angle, like a scarecrow. And you're moving the wrists up and front of the body. Okay, knees up, like you're marching, quadriceps. This is the small intestine meridian. Now down to the feet. This is the perineus, or fibularis, the bladder meridian. Now bring the foot up off the ground at a slight angle and front to the side of the body. This is the psoas muscle and the kidney meridian. Legs straight out to the side from the body and moving in towards the stabilizing leg. Gluteus medius, circulation sex meridian. This one's also called the nutcracker. Moving back up to the arms. Elbows bent, arms out to the sides, palms open, and moving the arms in and out as if you were arm wrestling. Ooh, it's really cold in here. Or it's really hot in here. This is teres minor, and it's the triple warmer meridian. Now arms straight out in front at about a 45-degree angle, and just move down. This is anterior deltoid and the gallbladder meridian. Arms back up to shoulder height, thumbs down. This time though we're moving up and out instead of down and out. This is pectoralis major sternum and the liver meridian. Now rotate so the thumb is up, and you're starting a little higher up this time. As Matthew would say, as if you're shaking hands with a giant, or like a choo-choo train. Anterior serratus, one meridian. Last one, move the leg out to about a 45-degree angle from the stabilizing leg, and move in towards the other leg. This is the fascia lata and the large intestine meridian. And there we go, that's all 14. All right, thanks for playing, everybody.